All right, for segment 1 today, DM Bloodworth, not Heathen Dog, because Heathen Dog was too scared to fight. He is scared of combat. DM Bloodworth and I are going to talk about castles and crusades. Get it up on the screen here. Bam. Can't share the screen when I keep the banner up. But remember, RPG Digest is a live stream podcast discussion, not a concise step-by-step tutorial. We may deviate and go off topic and onto tangents because I love to tangent. Enjoy. And here are the links. You know, it's funny. I just went through this stuff for the stream people. They don't want to see this again. Maybe I should just wait till segment 1 to go through this stuff. Hey, 3,000 subscriber giveaway. We are ever increasing towards that. Those 5 hardcover books will be given away to some American address, and we will do gift cards for our international friends. And yeah, friends. Because you're all friends. If you're here, you're a friend. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Whew. How much experience do you have with Castles and Crusades, Sir DM Bloodworth?
0.
Awesome.
Just picked up a couple, books about 2 months ago, and just haven't gotten around to digging into them yet. Looking forward to it, but I don't want to, I want to give a full disclaimer. All right, I know nothing about it. I am viewing this for the first time through your presentation, so I'm looking forward.
Awesome.
To it.
Well, here's what I can tell you. Generally, it's in the most generic sense, because apparently we have to have 7,000 disclaimers to put any facts out there now. In the most generic sense, if you roll higher than a 12 on a primary skill, you succeed. If you roll an 18 or higher on a secondary skill, you succeed. That's the general way that the dice rolling works. Nice and simple. Add in your levels, add in some bonuses, and there you go. I like the system. I really do. Today we're going to be talking about combat. Now, with Heathen Dog not here, and this is not, it's going to sound accusatory, but it isn't meant to be. We're probably going to breeze through this a bit quicker. I'm not going to read every paragraph and so forth. It's just that when Heathen Dog and I, we've got this kind of routine going on where it's like we like to make sure we don't miss something. I don't care if I miss anything. You got the gist of the game from reading the stuff in the past or hearing what we said in the past. So we're going to kind of go through this a little bit. We've already talked about the skill system. We've already talked about magic. We've talked about the important stuff. So now we're just going to kind of go through combat. And I'm going to do some of the reading here. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you just want to prove to me you're still awake, DM Bloodworth, just jump in at any time.
Okay.
So much of the excitement in playing Castles and Crusades occurs during the characters' combat with monsters. I mean, come on, they're role-playing games. People want to, kill orcs and kick in doors and get the loot, right? Whether a knight battling a horde of bloodthirsty orcs, see, he knows. They're all bloodthirsty. I'm sure that's racist to somebody. A rogue facing off with a nefarious pirate or a cleric turning a vampire. Combat is often the climax hit of many role-playing sessions. Combat is also the nexus of many rules in Castles and Crusades. And that's just a typical trope of an RPG, because combat is so prevalent in RPG, most of the rules pretty much start with combat and then branch out. It's got to be the core. All right, to facilitate this, the rules for combat have been kept as simple as possible, with maneuver room left for the castle keeper. I love that. Rulings over rules. Rulings over rules. Rulings over rules. But it has to have a framework. Rules are designed to organize the action of combat. Yet, as the essence of combat is its narrative, those fight words, some people, they can also enable the castle keeper to manipulate the rules in support of the narrative. Oh, God. Trigger warning. I should have put a trigger warning out there for everybody. Rara Rasputin, hold on a second. I know. Asshole. He's always messing with me. I love it. It's funny because my wife goes like, "Why do you watch the Vikings games?" Because every time you turn them on, they start to lose. Just don't watch them. Watch them after the fact, and they'll win for you. I'm like, I can't help it. They're my Vikings. It's the one thing I've left from Minnesota.
So what they're saying here is that combat can lead to telling a story.
What? I need to have a big trigger warning stamp that goes across the screen. Wait, hold on. I can do it this way. Can I do it this way, or would I change everything? Screw it, I'm not going to try. I was going to put up the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
right, so when a combat occurs, each participant will want to take action, unless you're me in my last Starfinder game that I played where I didn't get involved in any fight at all because I wanted to prove to them that it was unnecessary. And I succeeded. And they got mad at me. Yes, Chris Black, nice. The most common action will be an attack on a foe, but might also include, for example, drinking a potion or casting a spell. To facilitate when a character or monster can act, combat is broken into a series of time measurements called rounds. Each participant in combat generally gets one action each combat round. All right, pretty simple right there. Combat round comes up, you roll some initiative, you get your combat, or you get your action, and then we press on, right? Each participant acts during the round in an order established by the roll of a D10. All right, second edition people, that's a thumbs up. This is called initiative. The character with the highest initiative acts first. All right, so higher is better, good. And each character in turn performs an action until the last character with the lowest initiative roll has acted, like that. All right, here's a sample combat round. All right, let's take a look at this. Example, let's just go skip right to the example. Angthar, is that his name? Angthar? Yeah. Angthar, 5th level barbarian with 14 strength, attacks a goblin with his battle axe. All right, he's going to cleave that goblin in two, I foresee. The player rolls a d20 and the result is a 12. Angthar adds his basic attack bonus, so now we have to figure out where that basic attack bonus comes from, which I don't know yet, and a strength bonus, which we talked about attributes, 3 episodes ago? To get a total of attack roll of 17. Nice and easy peasy. You don't have to think about ups and downs and lefts and rights. It's just 12 plus your bonus plus your strength. Move on. Have a nice day. 17. The goblin's scaly hide imparts an armor class of 12. Angthar's attack roll of 17 exceeds the 12. Thus, he hits. It's just D&D fans. This looks very familiar to you. Non-D&D fans, well, look how simple this is. Roll above the number you hit. Actually, equal to or above the number you hit. Mm-hmm. The battle axe then inflicts a d8 hit points of damage, rolls a d8, adds the strength bonus to the roll. So he rolls a 6 for a total of a 7 because he has a +1 strength bonus, and the goblin only had 4 hit points. I was correct. He chopped that goblin in half. Rawr! And now his axe is bloody. Right. Now, if Angthar had only inflicted 2 points of damage, the goblin would have survived the attack, and it would have got to attack back. I think anybody who's played role-playing games understands that. And if you don't understand that, then my suggestion for you is buy Castles and Crusades 8th printing and read the rules for more clarity. Let's check out these combat terms. This has been a pet peeve of mine, and it's not this game. I'm suffering through this right now with the Palladium stuff. And it's a pet peeve as a personal preference, not as in Max is complaining about bad writing again. I don't like when combat terms are separated from the game terms. Just mix them all together at the beginning of the book. Then I know that there's one place to look for terms. Personal preference. It's just like some people like character creation at the beginning of the book. Some people like the rules and the character creation to follow. I get it. I'm just saying that is my preference. Do you have a preference on that, or does it not matter to you at all?
Yeah, I prefer it in both, to be honest with you. You know, they should have a glossary of terms at the back of the book. With page numbers. That's always helpful. I hate when they have it in there. It's like, well, let me see what context they're using it in. So that they should have that combination of index and glossary, which is always nice. I
will take that for consideration when I write my book.
Yeah, that's a really nice thing to have, because it's just a pain to look up, all right, I want to know what a word means. I'm looking at it. I found it. Now let me see how it's actually being used.
Mm-hmm. Context.
Through the whole thing, to find, all right, here it is. So I could see there's benefit to having it broken down into its subcategories and just kind of refreshing or going into the greater detail in this portion as well. So
so something just entered my noodle right here, and I remember a debate. Oh, this must have been 20 years ago. I think I was just out of the Air Force. We were playing 3rd edition D&D, and this kind of goes back to the segment last week, and this whole idea we're going to talk in segment 2 today at some point about context. Games have the right to change the context of a word to fit the game. Mm-hmm. Let's just use an example that we all use and nobody complains about except for the strongest of the weirdos. Dexterity and agility are 2 different things. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you make a dex check to do agility checks. Nobody cares. But that's the wrong term. You shouldn't do it. It's not actually dexterity. It's agility, because dexterity is finger nimbleness.
Mm-hmm.
Agility is your balance, your reflex, and so forth. But for simplicity's sake, they roll it into one, and nobody cares. So, if a game says that that armor class means something, there's no reason to go in and parse it. And what's funny is now that you're saying that, I'm starting to think that Heathen Dog's complaint about the illusionist, while I understand where he's coming from, he had the needle of me moving a little bit more towards his side. I think it's moving back a little bit, because games do that all the time. They make their own context. And using what DM Bloodworth said is, especially if that context changes, nobody should have to go to a dictionary to figure out what the word means. If I change the content, if I decide to say, now this would be stupid, but if I decide to say that bonuses give minuses and penalties give pluses, I mean, there is a construct where that could happen. But still, if I want to say positives, negatives, positive, as long as I define it here, I'm allowed to do that. That would be absolutely asinine. Mm-hmm. But you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah, a glossary of terms always welcome. For modules, have a pronunciation guide. Oh my God. If there's one book that needs a pronunciation guide, is the game Shard, the Shard RPG, because the person was so enamored with his own world that he's got all these weird words and so forth in there, and I couldn't follow the story anymore. Like his actual narrative for his world, I couldn't follow it. All right. So we got armor class. We already kind of talked about that a little bit in that example. Attacker, bonus to hit, combat rounds, about 10 seconds of time. That's important. We have combat maneuvers. This is something I like to see. I like it when people define a special type of attack as a combat maneuver instead of just throwing in 59 different roles that you have to dig through. But if you have like a combat maneuver section, or what is it in Earth Dawn? Combat options, drink. Mm-hmm. I like when it's kind of categorized under that, because then it's quick and easy. Forbidden Lands does the same thing. Hit dice. This term has dual meanings. We're going to read this one, because this is one thing that when I used to play Dungeons and Dragons many moons ago, I always screwed up. I screwed up hit dice and hit points. Even though, well, hit dice and level, really, they're kind of the same thing. The term has dual meanings. First, it indicates what type of die is rolled to determine a character or monster's hit points. For example, a wizard gains a d4 hit points for each level earned. Second indicates the level, and thus, there you go. It indicates the level and thus the number type of dice rolled. Mm-hmm. So a 5th level fighter will roll 5d10, right? A monster may have 5d8. That'd be a 5 hit die monster. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that used to weird me out when I was, I don't know, when I was young and ignorant. Some would say I still am. And then surprise. Now, we're going to read about this in just a second. So forget it. I'm not even going to talk about surprise. Why? Because we have surprise right here. Before combat begins, the castle keeper determines if one or the other party is surprised. Surprise is a situation in which the adventuring party happens upon monsters and neither is aware or expects the other. I'm reading that slowly, one, so that we can digest it a little bit better, because I was told I talk too fast, but also because I'm trying to visualize it as I'm reading it so I can explain it correctly. Surprise establishes who becomes aware first. The group that successfully surprises the other gains a free combat round in which to act. Wow, that is a great sentence, by the way. This is how you write a technical manual. I love it. Mm-hmm. Those that are surprised get no action. So you understand that? Mm-hmm. I get to attack, well, DM Bloodworth, because he's the guest, he wins surprise. He gets to attack me, and I get to stand there like a lump on the log. After the surprise round, combat proceeds normally. So with the initiative rolls and so forth. So far, I haven't seen anything about rolling surprise, but maybe that'll come up in a moment here. Surprise may involve a situation where two characters or groups are unaware of each other, or the situation where one group is attempting to surprise another, an ambush, so to speak. I already did drink. Damn it, Crafty, I already drank. Before any surprise roll is made, the castle keeper must determine if surprise is possible. A group that is aware of another's presence cannot be surprised. Well, that's pretty simple. Very, very clear in paragraph format, but I'm reading this like a bullet formatted paragraph. This is good. Situations often arise in which one group is not able to surprise another, such as if they have to pass over a hallway strewn with dead leaves that crack and pop when stepped on. Great visual. Mm-hmm. thus warning the inhabitants of the room down the hallway. This is one of those things that I've always struggled with doing dungeons. I think you and I talked about this maybe once or twice or 5 times in the past, where one of the things I struggle with like dungeon adventures is like when you're clanking around in your chain and plate mail armor and blowing fireballs off everywhere, how does the rest of the dungeon not just come out after you? Like, I heard a big boom on the floor up above. I'm not going to check it out. I'm just going to stay here and keep doing my business. Like,
you served in the military, right?
Fair. Okay. Touche.
It's like, good enough for government work.
Wait. No, I didn't serve in the military. I served in the Air Force. We'd be smart enough to run. Boom. I'm not staying here for that. I'm out. Go get the Army to check that out. But yeah, okay. Good point. Okay. They're having a conversation in chat. I do like watching the chat move. Keep having conversations with each other. Even those instances in which surprise is possible, there's always a chance something could go awry and the surprise fails to occur. If a so maybe we start to get to dice rolls now. If a party can be surprised, a wisdom attribute check is made by the individual. That's the right check to roll. By the individual group with the best chance of succeeding at it. So only one person rolls. None of this. Well, he failed. Can I try too? No. Oh, well, never mind. I was wrong. Or by each member of the group individually. I don't like that. No, I honestly, I don't like that. I like the first part. Because when you have like 17 chances, okay, there are only 5 people in the group. When you have all those chances, you may as well just say you succeeded. Thoughts?
I personally liked it before they got to the rolls. I mean, just use your common sense, which side would have had, a better chance of being surprised. And the keeper just goes with that.
So what I think this might be trying to emulate, though, is the Han Solo stepping on the stick thing. He had surprise, but then...
Yeah, I do like if you are going to roll, I love the fact that they tie it to wisdom. Because it's just how experienced are you as an adventurer, kind of be trying to be aware of your surroundings and using all of your sensory, ability. And that's a wisdom check. So it's a very, very good attribute to tie it to. So I would go with either or. I would do party surprise, not individual.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And for the people out there, like, that's not realistic. Remember, this is a game. It's not a life simulator. At some point, you need to keep the play moving. I as somebody who loves initiative, and I don't believe initiative slows down a game. I mean, I guess factually you could say I'm wrong because it takes time for people to roll dice, but I don't believe it takes people out of the game. That's just my take on it. At the same time, if you're rolling for everything, or like I said, what I have actually run into is like, roll surprise. Okay, you failed. Wait, I want to roll surprise too because no. Just roll the one surprise. Now we're moving on. And especially when you do it this way, and this is what Forbidden Lands does too with a lot of things, it's the character with the best chance. So if the character with the best chance can't do it, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. All right. So if the check is successful, the party or individual is not surprised. Failure indicates surprise. All right. And I know that we're going through this one more in depthly than I want to do the rest of the chapter, but this surprise is one of those parts of the game that I see a lot of people having problems with. I'm not saying do it wrong. I'm saying don't necessarily understand how it's supposed to work. And sometimes I even fall in that category. Different games do it differently. But surprise has such a meaningful impact on a lot of games. Some games, if you don't win surprise, somebody's going to die. I mean, combat is that bloody. So... Yeah. And I can tell you in the game that I'm writing, my real game number 1, we'll call it, that is a fact. If you don't have some sort of surprise, or let me phrase it, if you do have some sort of surprise, I don't want to say you're guaranteed to win, but you definitely have the upper hand. If it's a 50-50 fight and you have surprise, you've pretty much, barring some really horrible dice rolls. And it's intentional because combat is a scrum. Combat is difficult. It's something you don't come out of unscathed. Back to Castles and Crusades. When 2 separate parties could be surprised if both groups or individuals in the groups must make the wisdom check. If both groups fail the check, they are both surprised and nothing occurs as they stare at one another for a moment in stunned silence. Yes, and I really get irked when characters are like, I wouldn't just stand there. Yes, you would. I've seen people do it. I've done it myself. Where you're like, whoa. There you go. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be for 10 seconds. You haven't started rounds yet. just means that for a second, whoa, what is that? Your brain is trying to digest what is going on. Is that the enemy? Is that a friend? Is that something different? Do I attack it with a sword, or is it going to eat my sword and then swallow me whole afterward? Whatever. It's just, as somebody who's been in the military, I've seen it happen. Let's just put it that way.
Every deer who's ever gotten hit by a car failed its surprise check.
And to be fair, they have penalties, but yes. Sorry. I think they're still talking in chat, not to me. Good. Group is easier, but I like situations where one member of the party is not surprised and has a chance to avert disaster. I mean, I can see it. I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, how you play your table is how you play your table. I mean, I'm not here to judge that, but
depends on how big a group is.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you have if you only have 2 or 3 players, then fine. You can get much more micro decision making, and in those situations. But if you have 9 players, you're not doing individual surprise checks.
Okay, the chance for surprise can be mitigated by many circumstances. A party is well hidden or camouflaged, so basically waiting in ambush. The castle keeper may decide to penalize the wisdom check for orcs, or just say, you surprised the orcs. All right, returning to the example. We're not going to do the example. I think you guys get it from there. Initiative, we already talked about. It is a D10. Now, there's one exception to initiative. When a creature uses a weapon with a reach greater than 10 feet against an opponent with a weapon of less than a 6-foot reach, or when a large creature is fighting a medium or smaller sized creature, in the first round only, and I'm seeing this in a lot of games. I don't know if this is true of old D&D games, but I'm starting to see this in more and more games. I'd actually have to look it up. I don't even remember for 2nd edition because I do initiative just a touch different anyway. If this is true, maybe Dan Bloodworth remembers. I'm not sure because you run a 1st edition campaign. This isn't true in D&D, is it? Where in the first round, a creature with longer reach gets pretty much gets to attack first, right?
That's when you get into, and I don't know anybody that actually uses that. When that's gets into weapon speed and weapon differentials, and I don't think very many. I personally don't use it. And
do you use spellcasting time?
Oh yeah. I use spellcasting time when you have competing spells being cast. And then I see, well, who would actually have whose spell will go off faster, and I have spellcasting time. Just came up in my campaign last Monday, where the druid that the player characters were getting ready to fight started doing his call lightning 6 rounds before he made his presence known, and he still needed another 4 rounds to pull off the spell. If he waited, he would have had a much better effect of being able to cast it on time on top of them before they were aware of him. Instead, he started getting pelted by arrows from the ranger because he was a dumbass, and he basically stepped up and revealed himself too soon. So spell casting I will, if I have competing magic users.
Okay.
Certainly use that spell speed to come.
So I use it in 2nd edition. I use speed factor in 2nd edition because I use spellcasting times also. Mm-hmm. Now, if you take out spellcasting times, and it sounds like for the most part you just do it in the competing sense, then I can see not having weapon speed. But it's to me, it gives that wizard that one last little chance of somebody with a 2-handed sword swinging really. I'm going to get this thing on you, and you go magic missile or sleep. So I can see the point of it, but for some people that's too much math. I guess that's all I would say is if you're using spellcasting time, use speed factor. If you're not using spellcasting time, well then why would you screw the fighters? Make them have speed factor.
Well, it's also when you have simultaneous initiative, you're going to adopt other rules as well.
Sure. Yep. But this is
anyway.
Oh, did you? I thought you froze for a second.
No. Yeah, no. Sorry.
This right here is something I've been seeing in more and more games, and I like it. In the first round, if you're a large creature versus something small, or if you've got a really long weapon, some long pole arm that's made to keep people at bay, that's the whole point of it. In the first round, you get initiative. It's but it's only for the first round. And this rule only applies to the creature with the shorter reach or smaller creature approaches within 10 feet. Of course, you got to be within the weapon range. Such action counts as the action for that round for the large creature. So it isn't an extra attack. It just says, I go first because I've been waiting for you. Mm-hmm. Combat actions. You can attack. You can cast a spell. That is considered a combat action. You can move. Well, how far can you move? Well, if no other action is taken, a character or monster can walk a distance equal to his full... Oh, now we went back to bad English. Equal to his full movement rate. Full movement also includes jogging and running. You can use an ability. A character or monster may perform one class or racial ability each round. Some abilities, like spells, take more than one round to complete, and that would be obviously in the spell description. Some monsters can... sorry. Thought you were going to say something. Some monsters can perform more than one ability per round. So keep that in mind. Abilities may involve movement, but in most cases, the movement will not exceed the normal movement rate. Otherwise, Castle Keeper I love this. Castle Keeper retains discretion as to whether any ability use involves movement. Or, hey man, you're too busy trying to, get that sling going. So I'm going to let you have half movement. Rulings over rules, and sometimes you might not like it. Most castle keepers or dungeon masters or game masters or storytellers, oh my, they are reasonable and fair. You can use an item. Now, what about non-lethal and multiple actions? Well, no matter the type of action attempted, it is up to the castle keeper to adjudicate how long an action takes and whether it can be performed in a single round. There you go. Most actions occur in a single round, or if they take longer, the rules for specific actions usually detail how many rounds the action takes to complete. Violence solves everything here. A lot of people have played Hackmaster, and I haven't. That's one of the older games that I actually never got into. All right. Let's see. The castle keeper may allow more than one action per round under special circumstances. For example, a character has a haste spell. Also, some non-combat actions a character might take. Whoa, wow. Also, some non-combat actions a character may take might not consume a full round. The latter aspect is important, and castle keepers must use common sense and reason, not player complaining, if the action takes a full round. Because every character thinks they can do something quicker than they probably can. And I just use bad English. Drawing a sword would not take a full round. Tossing someone an item may not take a full round. As a rule of thumb, simply think of how long such an action would take in real life. But don't think long on it. Just make a ruling, and if the player or, if you have to err on the side of the player, or the character, I should say, in that case, because they are supposed to be somewhat heroic. And if you feel like you made a mistake later, just say, hey, I think I made a mistake on that one going forward. It's not going to work that way. But, that's my opinion. If you've got to juggle, do you tend to lean towards the characters, or do you try to lean towards realism or rules, or screw the players?
I never try to screw the players.
What kind of dungeon master are you?
I am not an evil DM. I just said this the other night. When I'm rolling damage dice against my players, against their characters, I should say, and I roll the maximum, it pains me. I'm like, but it still stays what it is. It's like you got critically hit, and you just took 16 points of damage, and it is what it is, but when somebody
like, hey, I want to dig. I need to dig in my pack and find my potion.
Right, yeah,
but I also want to tumble still.
If they can make it sound somewhat reasonable to happen in a heroic fantasy, yeah, I'd allow it. Okay. My magic user fighter in the group, he wanted to teleport ahead of a group of hobgoblins, and plop down by himself. Well, actually, he was piggybacking the halfling who he could carry on his back during this maneuver, and he fully realized that they were going to be far separated from the rest of the party, and dropping down just the two of them into a party of 8 fleeing hobgoblins. And I allowed him to do it, and he dropped down. And luckily for them, they had surprise, and he was able to. I gave him a bonus for a surprise, considering the hobgoblins would have never expected anybody to just boop right in front of them, and allowed him to make his. He cast a sleep spell, which put 4 of them to sleep right away, and the other 4 they just engaged by themselves, and then the rest of the party came in. So all of that action was obviously, we weren't rolling every step of the way. It was just, does this sound something that would be reasonable for a very heroic minded character to be able to pull off? And so that's how it kind of played out, and worked really well. So yeah, anytime the game master is utilizing his or her discretion, I think it's better than a game rule.
As long as it's consistent.
Yeah, as long as it's consistent, and as long as you're in the rest of your rulings, like when you're rolling dice, I think dice are, the dice roll is the dice roll. And I kind of, stick to what the dice say is what the dice say. They're the only completely unbiased arbiter of what occurs. So that's where I go with that.
Not to answer this chat, but your other chat, Chris Black, I'm going to be real quick about this. The word "or" changes what you put in your previous comment. All right. So, where are we here?
I like Chris Black's thing.
Right, I know, right?
So unrealistic. Every hobgoblin will expect that. Yes,
exactly.
If they didn't kill them all, they would have learned that for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like almost all the chats that happen, or comments that happen. Chats, comments, whatever. Who cares? But yeah, we have some good chatters here. Where was I? Oh, movement. So once initiative surprise is determined, each character or monster involved in combat is allowed an action. One allowed action is movement. Movement, like the combat round, is an abstraction. All right, so it's an abstraction. Movement can be increased by jogging, double the movement rate, or running, quadruple the movement rate. Drop all fractions to a minimum of 1 foot. That gets petty. I'm glad it's in a rule book. This is not a problem with the rule book. I really get annoyed when players do this stuff. I can actually eke out 6 more inches. Shut up, you're right there. Even a sprinter, might be 3 inches different on one sprint than another sprint, So, but in a rule book, because again, it's based on miniature wargaming at some point, we still have those traditions in there, so I get why that's in there. To translate the movement rate into inches, hexes, or squares, well, really hexes, everything else is wrong. That's right, I said wrong, because I am the authority on this stuff. Me, and only me, always hexes. Divide the movement rate by 5. I love the internet trolls that come out there and accuse me of all types of stuff, because I'm just going to meme it all now. I am going to put out bad information just to piss off everybody now. An attacker can move 1/2. An attacker can move 1/2 his movement rate and still attack. See, 1/2. No attack is allowed if a character exceeds 1/2 his movement rate. Okay, so there you go. Nice and simple. And I didn't read this beforehand, but I kind of assumed that's what the rule would be, because that's what a lot of games do. So obviously I've already been violated. Violated by what? What'd I miss? I missed something. I didn't violate anybody. Yet. The only exception to this rule is when a charge is attempted. And well, let's read about charge then. Charging is a special movement-based combat maneuver. A successful charge attack results in a +2 to the damage inflicted. All right, let's check out this example. Examples usually work the best. Una, the elf, announces that she is going to charge an orc standing across the battlefield. That evil orc. That's right, elves kill orcs. That's what she's supposed to do. Una's base movement is 30 feet, and thus her jogging rate is 60 feet. As long as the orc is at least 30 feet away, but no more than 60, Una may attempt the charge maneuver. Ooh. When charging, the attack suffers a -4 penalty to armor class for the combat round. This penalty applies. Okay, I want to say this again. The attacker suffers that. Because she's focused on the charge, when the orc goes to try to reciprocate and attack her, if the orc is even able to, she will have a -4 to her armor class. The penalty applies even if the charge attack is not successful. Well, it's just by virtue of doing that. Okay. The penalty also applies to the defender attacks first due to size or weapon length. So that could be scary if somebody's setting against a charge. I mean, that's a common maneuver in especially cavalry type games. Set against that charge. Oops, can't see. There we go. Set against that charge.
And that automatically does double damage when it does hit too. So it's a dangerous thing to be charging into a set spear.
Yes, it is. Now, Astonishing Swordsman, Indigo Dragon says, Astonishing Swordsman Sorcerer's Hyperborea Second Edition has great combat maneuver rules. Yes, it does. I just don't remember them off the top of my head because those rules always get jumbled up in here and I have to read them every time. But yes. It's just a weird term to use. Would you jog to attack the orc? I doubt that. Well, it's a game term to say how fast you move. Basically, it's saying you can move up to double your movement rate. Because after that, once you start getting into running and sprinting and so on and so forth, you're focused on the run. You're not focused on, I still can attack. But to be fair, not everybody has to just walk into battle. You can jog into the fight and use that momentum behind you. I think it's just, again, there is a kind of a miniatures or a wargaming component behind it.
Unless you're a Zulu warrior.
So let me put this on the screen because I want to read it a little bit better. I can't manage tracking all of combat 1 second at a time with everyone acting simultaneously. Also tracking every time you get hit as a separate injury that has to be healed independently. Wait, what? Okay, I hope somebody was talking about something else in chat because I don't think that was directed at me.
Yeah, I think.
They're talking about Hackmaster. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I put a different conversation up here. You're gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think he's talking about like when you segment all the different actions going on, and it's very difficult to keep track of all of that. One of the nice things about that, though, when the combat gets kind of unpredictable and very hard to keep track of, that's pretty darn realistic. I mean, if you can really play that out and describe the action to the players, and if the players start forgetting what their character was going to do, have them lose their action and say, listen, that's the nature of a mass combat that's taking place. You're fighting 25. There's 9 of you and you're fighting 25 hobgoblins. It's not going to be an orderly affair. All right. Some of you are going to forget.
Your turn to strike. Your turn to strike. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
You were out of place. Bad.
Yeah. It's like, so if it does get out of hand, even on the macro level, like the players are getting confused. The DM is kind of losing some control over it. When you bring that back under control, leave the chaos component of it, allow. Yeah, go ahead.
What initiative is really there? It isn't to say like, okay, I attack a second after you, and I'm not arguing with what I'm just using it as the example. Isn't to say I attack a second after you, I attack a second after you. It does 2 things. Number 1, it says I was able to thrust just a little bit quicker than you were able to come down, and I got this into your throat before you could hit me with the axe and you fall and die, and I don't. The other part of it is to keep the players, like, okay, who is next? Okay, you're next. I mean, because it is still a game. So like the game that I'm writing, combat is a scrum. And this is why I'm saying combat's deadly and why surprise is important, is because there are no initiative rules. It's attack, and everything's done in what I call the order of operations. It's basically phases, and the phases are only there to say, okay, we have to separate this out a little bit so that there is some semblance of game mechanic control, so the game master doesn't get confused and so forth. But this isn't the right order. But essentially, it goes, like melee attacks, ranged attacks, magic attacks, your other actions. That is not the order I have in the game. But then, okay, everybody do your melee attacks. Club. Okay, who's still alive? Okay, everybody do your ranged attacks. And that's only for the sake of keeping the semblance of order, or keeping track of things. But yeah, that's why in that first round, you both could kill each other.
Yeah.
Although I do have special one-on-one rules. Anyway, let's go. So other things characters can do. You have ranged combat. I think everybody knows the idea of shooting a bow. Medium range results in a -2. Long range in a -6. Now, you second edition people will be like, whoa, it's supposed to be -5. Well, this is Castles and Crusades. This is not AD&D second edition. So it's -6. That's all you have to remember. Normal attack for short range, medium attack -2, long range for -6. And I think that is a fair penalty, especially when you consider that you add your levels and all this other nonsense into rolls, right? Okay. Let's go to unarmed combat. Grappling. These are usually the rules that mess with people the most because, but here's the thing. First of all, D&D's grappling rules are just bad. In the original AD&D, second edition AD&D and so forth. I don't know about basic. I'm guessing it's somewhat the same. They're just bad. But that's fine because they're meant to be an abstraction or random abstraction. That's part of the problem with it. Most games can't get grappling rules right. Unless you think of it like this. It's just an abstraction. And this is something that I had a hard time with, especially in the 90s, because I like to visualize everything exactly. It's like, no. And I took martial arts. I took Kung Fu for a while. So I've been, no, if he does this punch, I can grab his arm. And, it's like, no. And I'd argue with game masters over this stuff. It's just an abstraction. And the more abstract the rules, the better I like it. I think, again, Forbidden Lands has the best system of abstract grappling rules. If I make my roll, you are grappled, you cannot attack. I don't care how you describe it. You're pinned to the ground. I've got you in a foam Nelson. I'm holding your two wrists. I'm telling you, don't punch yourself, don't punch yourself, don't punch yourself. Whatever it happens to be, I'm preventing you from attack. And there you go. Now you can use a dexterity or strength or whatever your game system allows to try to get out of that. But it's going to take up an action to do it. That's all it needs to be. It just needs to be, I made my grapple. What are you doing with it? How that's described is up to, in this case, the castle keeper or DM Bloodworth or even the player. Like the player's got to go, yeah, okay, he got me. Oh, I'm in, what do you call a straitjacket hold? He's bear hugging me. The problem with D&D, at least second edition, with that stupid chart, is like, how did I go from a bear hug to a noogie? It's like, how did that happen? All right, the attacker rolls a d20 and adds his bonus his bonus to hit. Sorry, plus any strength modifier. That's it. Bonus hit plus modifier. A monster's bonus to hit is equal to its total number of hit dice. So a 3d8 hit die creature adds +3. It's easy. If the total is greater than or equal to the defender's armor class, the attack hits successfully, and the defender I can't read all of a sudden now. Successfully hits the defender and inflicts damage as determined by the class or monster description. So what does this grappling down here say? The attack makes roll the hit. We got that. Should an attack be successful, the defender is held and cannot act except, there you go. Nice and simple. I've got you. The kobold is holding you. What are you going to do? Well, I had my sword like this, so you shouldn't have been able to bear hug me from the front. He did. He slid under your legs, grabbed your nuts, and now you're held because you don't want him to squeeze harder. I don't care what the reason is. You're grappled. The defender, considering the nature of the attack, is considered pinned or held. Unless already laying on the ground, a pinned defender is considered standing. Okay. So held. Like, got it. Nice and simple. I like these rules. What do you think of these rules?
Simple is best. And yeah, definitely does not need to be as complex as as other game systems have made it out to be. So yeah, perfectly reasonable to say, you made your roll. Now the opponent needs to try to respond, and doesn't need to be more than that. I don't know why they ever tried to make it much more nuanced and complex than
I think it was really the war game simulationists in them.
Yeah, but it's like just how much grappling actually occurs in those situations. I mean, I guess in close combat you are, but still it's just I've grabbed you, I've pinned you down. You're going to try to struggle to get out of it. Doesn't require a lot of a lot of game mechanics in order to resolve that out.
I think it was because of weirdos like me who'd be like, well, how? If I'm standing like this and I block him like that, there's no way that he can. It's like, and I've had game masters. Again, this is way back in the day. Especially, I'll tell you right now, Korea was the worst place I ever was a player and game master. If I could remove that 1 year from my life from my gaming hobby experience, everybody, not only myself, would be happier for it. That was bad. That was a bad time. I was a bad person then. But I used to argue that stuff all the time. Like, no, you couldn't do that. And game masters would try to simplify it. Be like, well, that's stupid because I could stop that instantly. I don't care. So that's not the point. And you have to sometimes deal with people like me and explain, no, just simple. You are pinned. It doesn't matter how it happened. Yeah. You're being held. And so I think that may be why, with that simulationist mindset, maybe why some of those rules were put in. I don't know.
Yeah, trying to impose rules on combat is a little bit strange, even in real life. I mean, I'll never forget, on the pugil pit in basic training, they were like, you have to keep both hands on the pugil stick. You're not allowed to swing the pugil stick with one hand or whatever. It's like, you're in combat. You got to do whatever the hell. You got to do whatever the hell.
Was there a safety reason for that? Because I can understand, because you can do a lot of damage if you get that thing going, even with the little spongy end.
I suppose so. But like, I'll tell you a true story. So I'm getting my ass kicked, all right, by Private White. I'll never forget it. He was like 250 pounds, 6'3". I was 5'6", 158.
Well, that's why they put you against him.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. They always match you up with somebody who is going to destroy you. One person that you should be even, and one person that you should be able to destroy. So anyway, every time he hit me, it felt like I was going to lose consciousness. All right. Especially headshots. Oh, yeah. He blasted me every time. And every time I got spun around. All right. And so I was lashing out with, one-handed, swinging back, get both those hands on that. I was like, what? So at one point, the drill sergeant, Drill Sergeant Rains, hope the man is still alive today. He was old then, so he may or may not be. He comes up to me and he says, if you turn your back on him one more time, he says, I'm going to fight you. I literally said, it says, you're not going to do any better than he is. I was like, go right ahead. But they were trying to apply these like ridiculous rules, to combat. And it just wasn't going, I just wasn't going to do it. I was like, either way, I'm getting my ass kicked, so I might as well try to do something in return. And
see, we never did that in the Air Force, but if I'd have been a pugilist, stick dude, I'm not saying it would have worked. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sitting here saying I'm Ninja Max, but especially then with my training, oh, dude, I absolutely would have taken that thing one hand, maybe two handed, because I could do it either way, and I'd have just swept his ass.
Yeah,
and the thing is, I would had to somebody that big, especially with my size at that point in my life where I was only 120 some pounds, I would have had to have spun around, because in order to get that proper momentum, I would have had to have my hips moving. And right. But I'd take his legs out from underneath him. And if that didn't work, well, guess what? He's clubbing me in the back. But it's really against somebody who's 6'3", 200 and some odd pounds. What else am I going to do? Either that or I'm going to jab him in the face. But another reason why, even when you train in a bow staff, you'll do the one hand thing is to keep somebody at distance.
At distance, right. So in a game, you're not going to go through all of the possibilities of what you're going to do in that combat, and so it's basically you made your hit roll, you hit, that's it. Now you do the next thing. It could be much more simplified, when you're, when it doesn't need to be that nuanced and complex. So
wow, I think we just got called out.
For what? I don't know what V9L2 L20 means.
I don't know exactly what that is, but still version 9 level 2. I don't know. But meanwhile in real life, that's the part I took out of that. Meanwhile,
yeah.
It sounds like it was time for the jogging maneuver in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Did I get to use half movement rate or
Oh, Vikings 9. I know.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
watching
now
it.
I know what it is.
I'm watching. Hold on. Cousins just threw a long pass. Oh, look at that. All right. All right. Oh, God. Thank you. I forgot what it was. One of the things my Sifu taught us in martial arts is if somebody's coming at you in a straight line, you move, in a circle. If somebody's coming at you, acting all wild and crazy, coming at you in a circle, you move in a straight line. Well, guess what? Guess what the best straight line is? And my Sifu was not against saying this stuff. He's like, if you can straight line your ass out of there, go.
Yeah, run away.
Why are you fighting anyway? Because the drill sergeant made me. All right, so let's go on.
Well, actually, that might segue right into situational modifiers.
I'm banning all of chat. Right. Well, yeah. So we've got overbearing, pummeling, and if you want to see the exact rules for this stuff, go ahead and read that. I will take DM Bloodworth's suggestion. We're going to go into situational modifiers. Could be worse. Could be the Giants. Oh God. Then there's situations where it would be impossible to set up a rule or would involve such complex rules to fill up an entire tome. And I think this is what DM Bloodworth was just kind of trying to talk about, where it's like you cannot simulate life through a game, even something as simple as grappling, because there are so many different options and things that can happen in people with different musculatures and bone structures and speeds, whatever, maneuvers. Just make it simple. In these instances, rulings over rules, the castle keeper must use reason, common sense, or narrative development. I love it. Put that right into the rules to determine what modifier is applied to the hit roll. All right. I'm not going to go through the example there. Let's see what else we have. Here's some situational combat. Defender is prone or blind, add +5. Remember, this is to the attacker's roll. Mm-hmm. If the defender, now this is one that when I saw the chart yesterday, real quickly, when I was kind of scrolling through how many pages I was going to have to look at, I was like, what? Defender prone and defenseless. Why? Plus, that should just be a coup de grace kind of thing. But I could imagine it for ranged attacks. You have to think a little bit outside the box. Or let's be fair. How many times if you understand the history of knights and heavy armor, man, you'd be laying on the ground and they'd be smacking at your armor and the knight would just be laying there dying of dysentery still. I mean, now, it isn't that somebody couldn't find the weak spot. I'm not being ridiculous here, but peasants would come up and they would just bang on them because it was very distracting. So I could see the -10, but at the same time, you could just be a castle keeper and say, yeah, you kill him. Defender at lower elevation, +1. Defender stunned or cowering. That's funny that stunned is only a +2. I would think it'd be higher. Defender invisible or attacker blind, -10. And you can read the rest of these. Don't have to. I like these cover rules. I might not have been Heathen Dog, but somebody commented when we talked about this in the past that there are too many. You don't need quarter, half, three-quarter, and full. You could have just had half and full. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's up to you. I mean, you're the game master. You can change the game how you want. Armor class is representative ability. So we know what AC is already, right? That's the target number to hit your butt. Now, shields. How do shields work? Every shield has a +1 modifier to armor class, but the size of shield determines how many opponents the +1 applies against. Oh, okay. Small shields only offer the adjustment against one attacker. Pick. You got 3 people attacking you. Which one are you using your shield for? Medium shields against 2, large shields against 3. I like that. I think that's a nice, simple rule, but meaningful rule.
Yeah, I really like that. That's an innovation. All right. Yeah, I don't know if they're the first one that came up with it, but it's certainly not something that I recall in first edition AD&D. You could probably tell me better if it was in second. But that's certainly just a common sense application of game mechanics. So I really like that. Yes, that shield world
what was it
worth stealing. That rule was in second edition. Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't know that. Or if I did know it, I've forgotten it. Oh, great. I'm never allowed to talk about second edition AD&D again because I'm not a master of it. Oh, Jesus.
You've been exposed.
Well, I've been exposed. Fraud! Okay. Helms. Armor class adjustment for helms apply to strikes against the head only. Do not otherwise adjust armor class. If there's an instance where the Castle Keeper determines that a blow lands on the head, either through the head being the only exposed target or some other circumstance, the AC of the head is 10 plus dexterity. Wow, that's a dexterous head. Each helmet's adjustment is listed in the equipment. A normal helm, for example, is plus 5 adjustment to the armor class. This gives the individual wearing it a 15. Okay, that makes sense. I'm neither yay or neither hooray or disagree.
Perfect example of that was when George W. Bush dodged the shoe.
Dodge the shoe? Yeah, dodge the shoe.
Remember?
Okay.
Yeah, that was a dexterous and very all neck, right? Boom. It's like
my wife does that to me all the time. She's like throwing shoes at me. I'm like, I'm not a cat on a fence. Stop it. Cover. And you got the cover adjust, which we've already seen here. So here's my question, and I'm gonna try to skim through this right now. Is this to both? Oh no, I'm sorry. This is concealed, and this is cover. My God, as somebody who's in the military, I should have caught the difference. And as somebody who's got specific rules for cover and concealment in my we'll call my homage to Palladium. Yeah, I should have noticed that this said concealed and this says cover. And this is the right way to do it. Concealment should make you harder to hit. Cover should make it harder to attack you. Cover should make you harder to hit. I agree with that. All right, magic. You can cast spells. Okay, that's great. Situation, circumstances. There are innumerable situations, situational modifiers which can adjust armor class. Too numerous to list. There's honesty for you. I love it. Castle Keeper should always bear in mind the current situation or circumstances. And we've got combat maneuvers. Let's look at these combat maneuvers. And why did I skip that? Oh, hold on. Let me make sure. Oh, maybe it's not there. I thought there was a chart that showed. It's basically +5 to -5 is the general rule of thumb. It's just kind of like the skill stuff for your situational. Called shot, -8 to hit. Double damage or critical if allowed. Palladium doesn't have rules for cover and concealment, but I do. And the reason I have rules for cover and concealment is because I use the Compendium of Modern Weapons book when I run my Palladium games. And I want people to be able to take Indigo Dragon. You may not have been there, but I think it was on one of the Friday Chill streams. I actually showed it on the screen for a moment. I do have cover and concealment rules for Palladium. Essentially, all it does is it changes that automatic hit from like a 4 or less is a miss, 5 or more is a hit. I change it to like a 12 or more or a 16 or more, based on the cover and concealment. So, because I was finding that the Modern Weapons Guide made it way too deadly, way too deadly, and I wanted people to make use of things like cover and concealment. So, okay, back to Castles and Crusades. You can see different things. So there you go. There your charging information right there.
Take a look at that close supporting fire.
Ooh. Attacker rolls allies. So, attacker rolls strikes allies. Why not on a 1?
I guess a one is a pure fumble, right? So they might not hit anything on a 1.
Or pure failure. Okay, yeah, fumble or failure.
Or you might use a different chart for that. But this is something that, my players are frequently firing into melee, although they've gotten a little bit gun shy, for lack of better, for a more appropriate term for it. They've got a little gun shy about that, but having this in there where on a roll of 2 to 4 kind of sets it, it actually removes my double rolling because you have to roll, 2 failures means that you hit somebody, but this would actually unify it into just one roll. If you roll a 2 through 4, provided that doesn't still hit your target, but a 2 through 4, it's automatically, hitting your ally instead. So,
and I think it's a nice, easy solution because everybody get ready to drink. Earth Dawn had a solution whereas actually it's one of the few rules I really don't like of Earth Dawn, while it makes sense. Essentially, is you just start at the closest target from the actual target, or the closest character from the target, and then compare. I think D&D actually did as well, and then compare armor classes until you kind of run out of ability to hit. It's like, I don't want to do all of that. I like something as simple as this because you have to roll pretty badly for it to happen. And then how do you pick which character? I don't know. There's 4 of them there. I roll a d4. It's like, just move on. Or what makes the most sense? Oh, that one seems to be in the line of fire, especially if the person's in front and it's a melee scrum. Just hit that one.
Yeah.
No.
But AT&D had like size differences as well.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Like if it's a giant, you cannot possibly hit your dwarven companion who is attacking it in melee combat. Because you're
Especially on the other side. Yeah.
Right. So they do have certain rules, rules of thumb to be applied, common sense rules to be applied as well. But hey, I still don't see the problem of saying, well, if you rolled 2 critical failures, you could still hit that halfling,
Sure.
attacking the ankle of the hill giant instead of hitting the hill giant,
Mm-hmm.
so but I think this idea.
Whatever system you use that you're comfortable with is a good system. I generally, just speaking for Castles and Crusades, reading through this book, I think this is nice and simple. Keep it simple, stupid, and hey, Hungry Ewok's drinking in chat. Good. All right. Oops. Okay, Called Shot. I do want to read this, and then I think we're almost to the end. Yeah, because maybe not. We'll just kind of Called Shot, because this is always something that interests me in games, because this tells a lot about a game to me, and there's an example for it. This is when a combatant takes careful aim at attempting to hit the target in a specific spot. The attacker suffers a -8. Holy balls.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
If the attack hits, it automatically deals critical damage. Okay, so you know what? There is a reward for that. It isn't just like, okay, you hit. No, you're doing critical damage depending on the method used by the game group. No method used, allow the attack to deal double damage. Okay, so a Called Shot essentially just says, I want to make a double damage attack at a -8. I'm cool with that. And of course, if you're trying to make the person drop a dagger and you're saying, I'm shooting his arm, something like that, a good game master should be like, doesn't just be like, well, you do double damage, but you stole the dagger. Come on. So let's see what this half-elf is. Jana, or is it Jana? She's German. The half-elf ranger wants to make a Called Shot on an orc's helmeted head. The orc's armor class, so look at that, bringing in multiple things. Good. The orc's armor class is a measly 13, but its helmet grants it a +2, and the head itself is difficult to hit, granting the orc an additional +3 to the base armor class. Okay, this gives Jana an armor class of 18 to hit prior to adding the -8 penalty to the die roll. Now, here's one thing that is a complaint, although it is consistent in this game. I'm not complaining about Castles and Crusades. It's just it's a game design complaint that I have. I don't like it when games modify both the target number and the roll. Pick one. That's just it's one of the things that I'm actually struggling with as I'm writing my own games, in terms of being consistent about that, because I think it gets a little convoluted for this. It is not a bad game. I'm not complaining about Castles and Crusades. It's all over the place. I would just say for future, in more modern game terms, just pick one to effect. Either pick the target number and let the dice, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get on the die, or keep that target number static and then roll the die and apply the modifiers after instead of both. It's just an opinion. All right. Not that you can't do simple math. I get it. I'm just saying. If Jenna wants to hit the orc in the head, she must make an attack roll of 26 or better, because the 18 and then the -8 to a roll. If she hits, she automatically deals critical damage or double damage, depending on. So those attacks are no joke. Mm-hmm. All right, here are the different actions you've got. You can pause it if you want to see what each one does, or better yet, buy the book. Narrative of Combat. Look, I'm not going to read this. So if you want to read, but there's a line here. There's a line that I saw. Where is it? Oh, here we go. It is important to note that castle keepers must be careful not to run one-sided fights. Characters can do the same damage that monsters can do. Let's flip that for a second. One of my pet peeves, and I'm not saying you run every monster to its perfect numerical synergistic conclusion, but one of my complaints is when people play monsters really stupid. And again, I mentioned earlier about how I was a bad person in the 90s. I had somebody light me up. Now, I actually had a story purpose for this, but it didn't even get that far because I got lit up and then, I caused some friction. But this one guy who wrote for Polyhedron magazine hated how I handled Drow because I didn't utilize all of their abilities. And it was intentional because I was trying to draw the players in as a hook. And I got a 4-hour dressing down by this guy But his point, since then, and in my experience of playing games and so forth, is still, hey, don't have your monsters act stupid just because they're monsters. Now, there are things. I mean, they act instinctively. A gelatinous cube isn't gonna, it's gonna start turning into a ninja on you. But it survives for a reason. It has the ability to survive because it has certain roles, it has certain abilities, almost can't see, and so forth. Use those abilities. How would something that evolved, on an evolutionary scale, fight like that? And there's a book that, while I don't like the pronoun use in the book, but it's called something about, like, I can't see it up there, it's hidden, but like how the monsters actually fight. And I know it's meant for 5th edition, but it's really got some good ideas even for other editions of the game. A lot of you might not need the book. I like it as a helpful guide because it jogs my memory on some things. Like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that does make sense. Anyway, play the monsters. And Heathen Dog and I actually did a couple episodes way back in the day of RPG Digest where we talked about, a cockatrice and a rust monster and some of those simplistic things that are out there. Cockatrice is no joke. Hey, Michael McLaughlin, how are you doing today? 5e is obsessed with balanced encounters. Yeah, I mean, I conceptually am okay with balanced encounters as long as it's not all of them and you don't rely on it like, I have to make this balanced. No, you don't. There's no such thing as a balanced encounter because you can have a whole ton of different things from spell selection to just the way the dice come out to, I could build one creature that could take out an entire party if the party, say, fire-based. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are things you can do. A good game master can do all that. What I don't like are tropes of that whole balance base in 5th edition D&D, and you've run 5th edition D&D, right? DM Blood-Earth?
Not yet. Planning on.
Okay. I thought you had. Well, that whole concept of like, well, the only way to kill a party is to prevent them from having their short and long rests. Well, okay, if there's only one way to kill a party, that's lame.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside of that though, random encounters. I always try to give the players an out. Actually, I always give the players an out. Now, if they choose not to take it, I mean, look, what's it? My God, Bruce Lombardo. He killed half his party with a blue dragon. They could have left. They were obstinate, chose not to. Like, leave your stuff behind and I'll let you go back through the portal. They're like, no. All right. Wing Buffett. Guess what? Half the party was making a new character, but there was still an out there. Always give your characters an out. So they choose to take it or not is their business. Bob got mad at me because I killed him because a wyvern was flying overhead, or was it 2 wyverns? Doesn't matter. Was flying overhead, and he tried to hide behind a rock. It's looking down on you. There's no rock in the world that's going to hide you. I get it. You're a scout. You have magical abilities that entail with that, but you're right there. So anyway, don't be. Sorry, I'm not focused on chat right now because I'm reading through. If there's anything, I will come back to. I will come back to reading that. All right, hit points. Hit points are an abstraction. It's the amount of damage physical, mental, character, non-player character, and monster can take before passing out or dying. A character's hit points are mere abstraction. Yeah, it says right there, and are not enumeration of the character. Look at that, not enumeration of the character's physical being. I personally don't like that, but that is the proper way to run hit points. Who is it? I wasn't arguing, but I think it was on my Discord. I typed to somebody like, I just absolutely hate the idea that if you've got 50 hit points, you're just as strong at 50 hit points as you're at 1 hit point, then it's you're dead. like that. No, I can't handle it. My brain does not allow that. I'm not saying that kind of methodology is wrong. In fact, go by the rules, my methodology is more wrong. But my brain cannot handle that. There has to be a degradation in there. That's just the way I see it. So how do you do your games? You run a 1st edition game. How are you doing yours?
Right. I mean, we really don't get into that as much. We focus more on, what happens to you when you go below 0. I mean, I'll describe what would have been a really serious injury to, so recently my halfling, the halfling character in the group took 16 points of damage from a single hit. And I said, wow, just 2 levels ago, you were brought to -3 with the same kind of hit, so how do you represent this to your character? It's not that your character is all of a sudden, your body's physically able to take twice as much damage as it was, your experience has allowed you to shift away from most of that, and so I do believe in that you could take the player character's starting hit points and put that in a parentheses so you know where their physical damage begins.
Okay.
And everything beyond that is experience.
All right.
And,
Sure.
and to me, conceptually, that actually makes sense. You learn how to better dodge or slide off some of that damage, or you're wearing your armor a little bit better, because I think
so in some regards, you're kind of house ruling in like the Palladium SDC versus hit points thing.
Well, yeah, it's just the concept of it, because it makes sense. When you get hit wearing armor, just because the armor says that you're not going to take damage from it, doesn't mean that you didn't get hit.
Right.
It just means that the armor absorbed that. In more complex systems, you would actually take points of the armor's endurance off.
Oh, yes.
For that hit.
Battlelords of the 23rd century.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not a firm believer that, a hit point is a hit point is a hit point. There's different types of hit points that your character has.
Okay. And that's one of the things that's great about having an abstract system like this is, I mean, again, the rules as written people are going to complain, but who cares? I don't care about the rules as written people. If they're having fun in their games, let them have fun in their games. But somebody like me, I mean, I actually like that abstraction that he came up with, and I may, again, I see it as the Palladium system, not that he stole it, but just conceptually, because I played a lot of it, where it's like, okay, yeah, you got SDC, which is kind of like your vitality, it's your speed, it's your mental health, it's everything kind of wrapped into one. It's not so much just physical, my bones are broken type damage, until you get to those hit points. Then it's like, all right, that luck is worn out, and now anything that hits you now, you're too tired to dodge away from that thing, and it's actually hurting you. So, all right, Castle Keeper. So hit points now. Hit points are determined by, we already went through that in the character descriptions. Temporary hit points. In some cases, temporary hit points come first. Guess what? Temporary hit points act like real hit points, except for that they are taken care of first and cannot be healed. Damage, healing, 0 hit points. Oh, what happens at 0 hit points? In general, when 0 hit points is reached, the character or monster passes out. Doesn't die, passes out. Oh, it says right there. It's not dead. All right, so, but the full effect of magical healing character, okay, at -1 to -6. Rendered unconscious and grievously wounded. So let's read the example. A knight is struck by a club wielded by an Eton and reduced to -1 hit points. Before healing begins, the knight must wait 24 hours. However, a cleric of goodly intent decides to share the grace of his deity with the knight and cast Cure Light Wounds on the knight. The cure is for 8 hit points, but the knight is only brought up to 0. Okay, let's go back up to here. Unless magically healed, the character so wounded must rest for 24 hours. With most magical healing, the character's hit points can only be returned to 0. Wow, okay.
Wow.
Interesting. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. I like this. And here's why I like it. I don't like the whack-a-mole character. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Like, it's annoying to me. So I'm good with this. Mm-hmm. However, healing can proceed normally thereafter. And guess what? At this point, you could get a second heal. Yeah, it takes a second heal, but you could get a second heal and then pop up whack-a-mole. Mm-hmm. At -7 to -9, the character or monster is mortally wounded and loses 1 hit point per round after reaching -7. Ouch. And at -10, play taps.
Yep.
Damage, we're not going to go through this. Damage is just damage. Now, subdual damage is temporary. Do we want to read what temporary damage does? I'm going to tell you right now, no. Get the book. Falling damage, you can fall and take damage. Yep. Acid, there you go. And you get a saving throw to try to, only take half damage. But acid hurts. Flammable gel, napalm. And I think we're at the end. Oh, no, we're not. Jesus. Did we already cover this in the previous episode? Turning undead. I think we covered turning undead and destroying undead. If not, well, guess what? You can turn undead. Oh, here are the effects of gas. You can look at those. Something tells me this looks familiar to me. I think we covered this. And if not, well, too bad. because we're done. We're done with combat. Combat is over. We all died. We rolled. We failed our saves. We got to negative 10 hit points, and we are all dead. So look, it's not a word for word read through. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be just a quick understanding, show you what's in the game, to talk about our thoughts about Castles and Crusades. I am going to go first because I've been doing this from the beginning, and I'm just going to say, I don't know what I said about 7th printing. I really don't remember, but I'm going to tell you right now that I like Castles and Crusades. It still hasn't trumped Hyperborea for my favorite, what I would consider my true 3rd edition D&D. But as its own system and its own setting, I could see myself playing Castles and Crusades tomorrow. I really like it. Like, I want to play it when I have time and in the future. It's one of those things that, and yes, much to Heath and Dog's chagrin, I would probably play an illusionist because I like the illusionist in this game. Have you heard of his thoughts about the illusionist?
No, I missed that.
Okay, that was last week's episode. But to paraphrase and not to put too many words in his mouth, he can do that on his own. Is he thinks it's misnamed? It should be named something more like a psychic or mind melter or whatever, because it's not just an illusionist; it changes the reality.
Okay.
So he's got heartburn over that, and hey, but that's one of those things where it's like, hey, Baron G Rock, how you doing? Man, Baron G-Rock joins after you give him all his props. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. So now he'll never know what happened.
I'll most likely give him again. Well, actually, I put it on that. I put it on the post, so I'm sure he'll see it.
Yeah, when we go into segment 2, we'll definitely have that. But welcome. I am more favorable to. Oh, did I really rant more? Huh. Wonder why that is. I didn't have a problem with 7 printing that I remember, but you know what? So I'm gonna put that on the screen. I did have problems with the editing of 7th printing. I still have some problems with this editing as well, because I can read parts of a chapter and it writes one method, and then I can read the other part of a chapter and it's written another method. But I've been asked by people to stop ranting about that. So, I point it out really quickly and say, oh, there's a problem again, and then move on, and I don't rant about it as much anymore. But if I was more favorable to 8th printing than 7th printing, cool. But no, Castles and Crusades is a game. Even with 7th printing, I at least remember, like, I want to try it. I want to play it.
Yeah, I certainly want to as well. Since I don't know which, like I said earlier, I don't know which versions of it I do have. I have the 2006 collectors, just the player's handbook and the monster and treasures manual, and then the other one I have is 2014. So. You corrected me in that they're not editions.
They corrected me.
Yeah, they're not editions. So, I'm not sure. I'm guessing if it was 2014 and what this newest one is 21 or 20.
This year. I still don't even have that. I do have an email notification saying that my physical copies are on the way.
Oh, and that's the.
This is from the
That's
Kickstarter.
The 8th printing. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so that's
8th printing.
That's the 8th printing. So those aren't quite available yet. So I probably have 1 and 7. Thinking, all right, cool.
Not a problem. I wish I had time for computer games now. There needs to be 2 of me. Because this is actually New World is a game I've kind of wanted to play. But then again, I get sucked into MMOs because I'm one of those people that believes that an MMO doesn't start until you reach max level. So I'm always a guy that grinds all the way to max level. I play however I want till max level, and then when I hit there, I have to do all the tips and tricks. But
yeah, I have to get back for my channel. I have to get back to some computer RPGs. It's been a long time, and that's one that I've been looking at, but I am very leery of MMOs when they first release.
Oh, fair, yeah.
They do not have a good track record across the board. I don't care what company it is. City of Heroes was the only one that I can recall that launched to near perfection. That's how far back you have to go.
Really? I thought City of Heroes had a horrible launch day from what I remember. Maybe I'm thinking something else. Okay.
You might be thinking World of Warcraft was horrible. It was unplayable.
No, I didn't play World of Warcraft because I played World of Warcraft in beta and said, I'm not playing this crap game. I'm going to go play EverQuest 2. And then EverQuest 2 had its own issues. But
no, City of Heroes was a very smooth release.
Okay.
Remarkably so. But yeah, I tend to avoid MMOs when they're first released because but I hear a lot of good things about New World.
Well, other than the
Mostly,
SJW crowd calling it colonialism and everything else.
oh
But yeah,
well,
that's what they do.
That would make me want to play it all the more.
Right. So I'm gonna go through the end segment stuff, so I know when to end the segment, and then we'll fly into. So I didn't a single time. This is bad on me, bad Max. I forgot to say subscribe. And of course, as we end our segment 1 here, I do want to remind everybody that you can find us on these wonderful websites. Go ahead and pause it, or there. And we have our 3,000 subscriber giveaway. And I mentioned that at the beginning. So with that, I want to thank DM Bloodworth for being here. I didn't give him a lot of opportunity to say a lot of things, but you know what? He chimed in when he needed to, and he had some good opinions and some good historical, maybe I shouldn't call it experience. It's some good experience that he could relate to the game. So I want to thank you for being here, bouncing some ideas off me. Let me bounce some ideas off you and making segment 1 enjoyable.
Well,
so
thanks for having me. Yeah.
Are you excited to play Castles and Crusades now?
Yes, I am actually. I'm excited to take a look at it and to run a short campaign, see how it plays out, and it might be another. What I like to take from trying out these other games is I like finding these little nuggets of I'm going to port that into whatever else I'm running, and it's always good to borrow good ideas from many different sources and then bring them together into your game.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. This is not ending the stream.